When you think about construction waste, it seems pretty simple, right? You've got a pile of old wood, you call a company, and they haul it away in a big metal bin. End of story. And that's exactly the vibe you get from 905 Wood's website. But if you start to dig just a little bit deeper, a whole different and honestly a way more fascinating picture starts to emerge. Okay, let's get into this.
So right away, this is the core of the mystery. On one hand, you've got this public face, the simple hauler promising basic service. But then on the other, their internal documents sound like they're straight out of a Silicon Valley pitch meeting. We're talking API integrations and monetizing carbon credits. It's a classic case of what you see is not what you get. So which one is it? Are they just a regular dumpster company, or are they hiding a super sophisticated tech company in plain sight?
And this quote right here, it just perfectly frames the central question. Is all of this technology just overkill? Can a system that's built on AI really handle the muddy, chaotic, unpredictable reality of a construction site? Or is there a massive problem hiding in our trash that actually demands this exact level of high-tech thinking? Well, that's what we're here to figure out.
Okay, so to understand why a dumpster company might need a full-on tech stack, first, we have to grasp the huge, looming crises they're actually trying to solve. This isn't just about moving junk around. This is about a province-wide emergency.
And here's the scale of that emergency. Every single year, Ontario generates about 1 million tons of waste just from construction and demolition. That is a staggering amount of material that has to go somewhere. The problem is, somewhere is running out of space, fast.
Now, what's really striking here is just how urgent this is. We could be completely out of landfill space in as little as 9 years. And look at the biggest piece of the pie: industrial, commercial, and institutional waste. That's ICI. It makes up a whopping 60% of everything going in. That is the stream that has to be fixed, and it has to be fixed now.
And yeah, the government knows it. That's why they've put a hard deadline on the old way of doing things. 2 huge regulations are coming down the pipe. First, in 2026, the CIRCIL levy is going to start making it way more expensive to just dump waste. Then, the big one, in 2029, the REWDOB ban makes it flat-out illegal to send clean, untreated wood to a landfill. Period. The industry has absolutely no choice but to change.
And this brings us to the real technical hurdle. Why can't we just recycle all this wood? Well, the answer is something called the quality gap. See, on one side, you have this messy, chaotic, totally unpredictable pile of construction waste. But on the other side, the growing bioeconomy. Think companies making green steel or biofuels. They need an incredibly pure and consistent raw material, a feedstock. And bridging that gap, that's the multi-billion-dollar challenge.
And this table right here shows you just how big that gap really is. We're talking industrial buyers that need wood with less than 10% moisture, under 1% contamination, and absolutely zero toxic chemicals like the arsenic or chromium you'd find in treated wood. You can't meet these kinds of specs by just, eyeballing a pile of 2x4s. You need a refinery.
Which of course brings us right back to 905 Wood. This is their answer to that quality gap. They've built what they call a digital refinery, a system designed from the ground up to turn that chaotic waste into a verified, high-value product. And the whole thing runs on a 5-layer technology stack.
So here's the blueprint. It all starts with intake, which is like the bouncer at the front door for every piece of wood. Then you have logistics, which manages its physical journey. The regulatory layer handles all the complex legal paperwork. The financial layer creates the real-world incentives to even do this. And it's all built on a solid infrastructure foundation. Let's take a closer look at a couple of these key layers.
All right, step 1 happens right there on the construction site. A mobile app uses AI to classify wood as either clean or treated in less than 2 seconds. But here's the really clever part. The system doesn't just blindly trust the AI. It knows that old, weathered wood can easily fool a camera, so it applies what it calls a precautionary principle. If the wood is coming from a demolition site or if it just looks old, it's automatically flagged as high risk and gets forced into a second, much more rigorous screening process using advanced sensors.
Okay, so once the wood is collected, the logistics layer kicks in. Now, this isn't just about driving trucks around. The system enforces a really strict first in, first out, or FIFO inventory model. Why? Because giant piles of wood chips can actually start to self-heat and decompose, basically cooking themselves, losing their value and releasing carbon. FIFO makes sure the oldest material always gets processed first, which preserves its quality.
Now for the real brains of the operation, the regulatory engine. It uses a special type of AI called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short.
And let me tell you, this is a total game changer for any industry that has to deal with complex laws and regulations.
So we've all seen those headlines about AI just getting things wrong, right? Like that Air Canada chatbot that completely made up a refund policy? That's called a hallucination. A RAG system is designed to prevent that. Instead of just guessing, it acts more like a senior lawyer who has the actual law book, in this case Ontario Regulation 347, open on their desk. So when it generates a compliance document, it's not just giving an answer, it's citing the specific legal text that justifies that answer. It's grounded in fact.
And that leads to this absolutely critical point. In a regulated industry, you have to have an audit trail. If a government inspector comes knocking and asks about a decision you made 2 years ago, you can't just say, the AI did it. You have to prove exactly how and why that decision was made. The system's infrastructure layer provides this data lineage, tracking everything from the GPS location of the initial scan to the exact version of the AI model that made the call.
Okay, so the system is smart, it's auditable, it's legally grounded. But why would a busy contractor actually use it? Well, the answer, not surprisingly, is money. The financial layer is designed to make doing the right thing the most profitable option. It all comes down to this new decoupled billing model. Your bill gets broken down into 3 totally transparent parts: a fixed cost for the truck in the bin, a variable fee for processing, and then a separate dynamic line item for that new government CIRC, levy. And this is where the magic happens.
That third line item, the painful government surcharge, is completely avoidable. If you use the system to prove that your load of wood is clean and can be diverted from the landfill, the levy on your bill is 0. Simple as that. The financial incentive is baked right into the invoice.
And there's even another layer of value. Verified clean wood can be converted into a product called biochar, which is this really stable form of carbon that locks CO2 away for centuries. This process generates valuable carbon dioxide removal certificates, or CORCs. So for every dry ton of wood, you can generate about 3/4 of a ton of CO2 equivalent credits. The system actually shares that revenue back with the customer as carbon dividends. You're not just avoiding a fee, you're creating a brand new revenue stream from your waste.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and just look at the big picture here, because this is about so much more than just wood, and it's definitely about more than just waste.
This quote, right here, this captures the ultimate takeaway perfectly. The most valuable product this digital refinery creates isn't wood chips, it's trust. It's the auditable, legally grounded, verifiable data that proves a material is exactly what you say it is. And in a world that's more and more focused on supply chains and sustainability, that verification is worth a fortune.
And that leaves us with one last big thought. We've just seen how high-tech data systems can completely transform a gritty industrial process like hauling waste. So, if a simple construction dumpster can be turned into a dynamic, revenue-generating database, what other parts of our physical economy are ready for that same digital transformation? What's the next industry to be reinvented by verifiable data?